I've seen custom like package built websites where they'll say, we'll even get you up and running. Do you really think if it was that easy and you could just pay a wholesaler website to build you a business and then just click your fingers and just be like, right, we're up and running, profitable? Like, there's obviously a downside to that. And the big downside is lack of quality suppliers and low margins.
So today is a huge topic. When you consider going into dropshipping, you want to leave your 9 to 5, work and live from anywhere in the world. One of the first obstacles you might hit is, how do you actually source products? How do you actually sign suppliers for high quality products that will deliver to your customers the next day? Well, we want to dive in today and go really deep into how do you actually find these suppliers so you can be confident that you're working with high quality suppliers from day one. So, Lewis, this is a big topic, isn't it?
It definitely is. Yeah, great to be back recording another episode and covering such a key topic, because this is one that we get a lot of questions about from podcast listeners and people on our email list, always asking about UK suppliers, because obviously that's a key part of our home turf advantage strategy. If you're going to be able to offer next day delivery to customers, then you're likely going to need to work with UK-based suppliers. So I'm really keen to share my insights and our tactics for how we do that for people listening and try and help them find and sign high quality UK suppliers. So yeah, it's funny. I mean, if I go back to the beginning of my journey with dropshipping and when I first kind of found out about the concept of dropshipping, my immediate path led me to, okay, I need to look at things like AliExpress and Alibaba and find suppliers from China. And I remember sending off an email to a supplier in China at night on my phone, and I think it was through the Alibaba website. And I'd spent ages composing this email talking about how I wanted to work with them to source stock. And I think I don't even really think I understood the fact that I'd need to order a minimum order quantity, and it wouldn't technically be dropshipping because the items would then be sent and I'd need to then store them. But it was just that communication with the supplier that I thought, okay, this is my big shot. Like, these are the suppliers that are going to change my life. And I think if I had known then what I know now, I'd really tell myself, don't go down that rabbit hole, because, I was so excited for their reply the next day. But if I could look back and think, well, do you realize what would have come of that? If they'd said, yes, we can work with you. Yes, we can supply you. We'll send you a load of low quality products over from China in a container that you then need to store. And half of them will be unsaleable because there'll be quality issues that we didn't foresee. And you won't make any profit on them, and you'll have a huge customs import tax duty to pay when they hit the border, and there'll be a long delay because the Suez Canal will get blocked, or there'll be some global situation where we can't ship stuff, like just so many things. And I think looking back now, if I realized that stuff, I'd have made very different decisions. And there was another supplier, a UK candle supplier or manufacturer, and I was considering that as a niche at one point. And I thought, it could make premium candles. I could work with a UK supplier who pours the wax and puts them into a nice jar and everything they'd ship them out. And I remember having a conversation with this lady and telling her about our big plans and what we were going to do. And she was like, well, we can't drop ship them, but we can send them to you and you can then send them on. And I was kind of piecing this together in my head thinking, I'm a real business owner. Like, this could all work and come together. And again, if I could just speak to myself now and just try to give myself some of the information that I've now got at my fingertips, it's, you're making your life so much more difficult than it needs to be by not just working with suppliers who are already set up to dropship, who are based in the UK and who are familiar with the model. And using the home turf advantage model, selling much, much higher ticket products so that your profit per sale is much higher. Not making £4 or £5 profit on a £20 candle, instead making £400 or £500 profit on a £2,000 sale, for example. So yeah, I think it's just when you're trying to get suppliers from China, you're really fishing in an overfished pond there. You are just another person who's trying their luck with an AliExpress or an Alibaba supplier when everyone else is doing the same. Instead, maybe if you just look over and realize there's another pond over there with much bigger fish in it, it's the same amount of effort. You just have to choose where to go and search for those suppliers. So yeah, today's episode will try and break down a bit more of the tactics about how that works. But that was my own introduction into the process of finding suppliers.
We're fortunate enough to have been on both sides of the story. So we've both done the AliExpress model, which is sort of first introduced to you when you start to learn about dropshipping. And then we realized that really wasn't going to be a long-term sustainable business model. So we've seen the dark side, we've made those mistakes, and now we're able to be on the other side, having found UK suppliers that are high quality. And now we can talk to you about how to actually just go straight to those high quality suppliers and leave out all of the mistakes that we've made in the past already. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches by doing that. So I think for me, when I first realized that dropshipping was about, and I realized that I needed suppliers, you're first introduced to AliExpress. And so you expect it to be like a directory of suppliers that there might also be in the UK that you can use to find suppliers. So that's what I first tried to do. I tried to go to Google. I tried to find UK suppliers, that is just like a directory that I could find a big list. And those types of things, although they exist, that's actually the exact type of suppliers we would now, recommend that you avoid at all costs, really. And there was a switch in my mind when you taught me, actually, we need to go directly to the brands in the UK and cut out the middleman of a directory. So that gives us a lot to talk about and how to actually go into and find those brands. So where would you suggest people start, Lewis, in terms of finding their own UK suppliers?
Yeah, well, the point you made there about not going to a directory is key, because the best suppliers who focus just on making their products as best they can don't deal with things like SEO. Then that's not their priority. Whereas the people who want to rank highly on Google, which is where you will probably be searching for these, will be the people like the wholesalers who have a vested interest in you finding them, signing up to a fee to become one of their customers, and then them giving you access to the suppliers, but taking a big cut of the margin out of the process. And often the best suppliers won't even go on those directories anyway. So you're paying for access to mediocre suppliers and losing a lot of your margin by doing so. So it's a really good point about not going to directories, even though they will be the seemingly the lowest hanging fruit. They'll be the ones ranking at the top of Google. They'll be the ones luring you in with this great offer of we can come in and be a retailer. We'll build your website even for you. I've seen custom package built websites where they'll say, we'll even get you up and running. Do you really think if it was that easy and you could just pay a wholesaler website to build you a business and then just click your fingers and just be like, right, we're up and running, profitable? There's obviously a downside to that. And the big downside is lack of quality suppliers and low margins. So yeah, in terms of identifying the right suppliers, I think before you even do that, there are a few crucial steps that have to come before we get to the point of starting to work with good suppliers. And the most important one is to decide the type of dropshipping that you want to do, right? So after trying the AliExpress model that we've both used, or it doesn't even have to be AliExpress, it's the shipping products from abroad and then marking them up and trying to, make the difference based on what you bought them for from a supplier and what you're selling them for in the UK, after all the taxes, the shipping, the transport, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think after the taxes, the shipping, the charges, it becomes clear that in my situation, at least, I wanted to work with suppliers who could stand behind the quality of the products that were being sold and could offer fast delivery times. Because I knew if I couldn't have the former, so if the supplier was of low quality or had no accountability about product quality, then very quickly my brand's reputation would be tarnished and the business would be no longer. Likewise, if the products were great, but they took a month to get there, customers would be very unhappy for a different reason. And again, brand's reputation would be no longer, and people would just do chargebacks and whatever and demand refunds. So it had to be a balance of the two. And so it's when you're at school and you're learning to drive and one of your friends always gets this modified car, and they get kind of an older car and they soup it up and they add all the bells and whistles to it. And there's always one cool kid that has all the stuff on their car. And I remember my parents were really sensible with me, and they were like, no, you should get something reliable, get something a bit newer, but it doesn't need to be exciting. So I ended up with this boring but newer car. And I remember that I was looking at my other friends with all these cool souped up cars, but those were the ones that started to go wrong. Those are the ones that started to break down. They were unreliable. They looked cool on the surface level and they were flashy and, fun and exciting. But then they were the ones in the hard shoulder calling their parents at midnight, asking to be picked up because the car had broken down. Whereas mine was simple. I guess it's just understated, but reliable and would go the distance. And those are the two types of dropshipping that we're looking at right now. One's the cool model that you'll see the guys on TikTok, standing in front of their Lambos talking about making 1 million sales a day. And the other one is just the quiet, understated entrepreneur who makes 500 grand a year running a very, very simple business using UK suppliers to UK customers and makes £400 or £500 in profit per order. So you then have to ask yourself, which one do you want to be in? The one where it could all come crashing down at any minute and it's built on a bit of a house of cards, or the one that's just a normal, stable, long-term defensible business with a great reputation? I know which one I wanted to have. And so that's part of the reason why we now teach the home turf advantage model, where we work with UK suppliers.